Hello, everyone, and welcome to the End User Technical Advisory Board, AMA. The End User, as we like to call it, TAB, instead of Technical Advisory Board, is a group that is here meant to represent the end user community. With that, I will hand it over to Ricardo, the current active chair of the TAB.
Okay.
Best room ever.
Yep.
So feel free to come forward and be closer. It will help the discussion. I think we got a little bit of an oversized room but so the goal the goal today is to give you an idea of what End User Technical Advisory Board is working on, and Bob has the page open there. A bit of context: the CNCF has different bodies for governance. One of them is the governing board. That deals with matters of budget and like high-level governance. And then there's the TOC, the Technical Oversight Committee, that oversees the projects, the maturity levels, does the due diligence on the projects when they apply for different maturity levels, and has a series of technical advisory groups in different areas that kind of guide those projects and help those projects become more mature. And the missing piece was on the end user side. This was actually in the original charter of the CNCF, but it had not been created. So it was created, it will be almost 2 years now. And the goals are stated in the slide. The first one is to promote the publication of reference architectures. This was one of the main requests of end users to the foundation, was that having the project maturity levels was very useful. But we didn't have anywhere the context of why people adopted, why adopters are picking a project instead of another one, how are the projects being integrated as they build their stacks internally, all the reasoning behind it. So that's one of the main goals, to create and promote these reference architectures. The second one is to establish a closer link between projects and end users and promote feedback, what we usually call feedback loops, and get a quicker and faster way for projects to get feedback from end users around features they want to release, and the same from the end user side to promote passing the message of the most relevant requests back to the projects. And the third area is to identify gaps in the ecosystem. So this is something that in the TOC is already done from the technical advisory groups, but clearly end users have a lot of knowledge in this area, and it's identifying gaps of things that projects are not capable to do and people have been trying to figure it out but they cannot do, but also identifying areas where people are selecting projects that are not in the CNCF that cover things the CNCF should probably be focusing on. And this we pass on to in the community, and usually this triggers a lot of developments from vendors or even end users that will then donate these projects back to the community. And this is the composition of the tab today. The elections run usually early in the year. This year it was, we don't see it moving on the screen for some reason.
Oh, I was looking at the wrong one.
Okay. Usually the elections run at the beginning of the year. This year was a bit of an exception. We ended up running it around spring. I don't know, Bob, if we already have a date actually for the next year.
I do not.
Say again?
I do not.
Okay. But if you are interested, we, of course, incentivize everyone to come forward and participate and help us out. One of the things, in addition to running for the tab as an end user, one of the things we want to work on this year is to revive a bit what's called the end user groups. So even if you're not, if you don't have the cycles to contribute directly to the board, participating in these end user groups would be already super beneficial. If you need any more information in addition to the questions here, these are the people that work on it. But I just realized that we can also just start with a quick round of introductions of the people that are there. So I gave you the overview first, but we can start now by doing a roundtable. So
You first?
I can go first. So my name is Ricardo. I lead the platforms infrastructure team at CERN, which covers cloud native platforms and machine learning platforms as well. In the CNCF, I've been a member of the Technical Oversight Committee for several years, and currently I chair the End User Technical Advisory Board.
My name is Mike Bowen. I work at BlackRock. I run our OSPO at BlackRock and participate in our cloud native architecture central body. And my major day job is our enterprise data platform. So we have an AI first strategy around the unstructured data, and I run that portion of our entire enterprise data platform. I've been a member since inception and just a community member and big fan of the CNCF since dating back to its inception. So happy to chat with anybody if they have questions or want to talk after.
My name is Chad Bowden, not Bowen. We're not brothers. Very close. I run the software factory for Boeing. I work at Boeing. So all the software engineers at Boeing building software leaving the company, they use the Boeing software factory. I've also been on the tab since inception, and I'm also on the technical oversight committee with Ricardo.
That makes three of us. Hello, well, because three of us are in the technical oversight committee as well and the tab. Hello everyone, my name is Katie Gamanji. I work for Apple. I am doing all things cloud native and open source at Apple. And also, yeah, I mentioned that I'm part of the tab as well.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Amundsen. I work as an engineer inside the Developer Experience Organization at CVS Health. We support the 27,000 people in the Digital Data Analytics and Technology Organization, the broader technology organization in the company. I lead the design and implementation for the application platforms that DevX produces and delivers to all of the application teams across all of the line of business, technology, engineering teams in the company. And also a big fan of CNCF. I'm the new guy on this board in that I joined like a week ago. So yeah, thanks for coming.
Hi everyone, my name is Henrik Blixt. I lead product management at Intuit for our core platform and developer tools. So my team is responsible for everything Kubernetes, service mesh, API gateway, API management, Argo, and some other developer tools. And I've also been in the tab since inception. And I think this year I celebrate my 30th year in open source since my first Linux kernel patch back in '95. And I'm also an Argo maintainer.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for the intros. I think we'll start off with a couple, questions right off the bat. Of those goals that you listed for the tab this morning, or earlier in this session, what have been the big challenges that you faced with executing them?
Can you? I actually couldn't hear.
Oh. What challenges have you had working towards the goals that you outlined for the tab?
Yeah. So I'll give the answer also from the perspective of having been in the Technical Oversight Committee for quite a while. Building a structure like a board like we're doing, it takes a little bit of time to gain the engagement, to get the people participating. So these goals are clearly things that end users have been asking for a long time. But we do struggle still a little bit in having the engagement from people to produce the information and contribute to these activities. So reference architectures is a very good example. It's something that has been asked for since I've been involved in the CNCF. When we started working on this, it's more complicated than it seems to get people to come forward, spend the time on working on this, but also being able to do this. A lot of end users actually cannot share easily what they're working on. So this is one example. The ways we are trying to tackle this are to create these end user groups and create more opportunities for people for end users to engage with each other, so that we build this momentum that will help us after.
I think the other challenge that we can highlight is visibility of the tab, because that engagement is also about us being visible enough to the community for them to know how to engage with us as well. And this can be through many ways, by participating, because we recently did run the survey around maturity levels and how the end users use that within their internal organization to make decisions. And it would be great to have more people knowing about it and actually contributing towards that as well. So I think just the overall awareness of this entire board, the function that we have, the way people can engage with us and participate, I think that's still yet to be enhanced overall. So that's what I see as the biggest one for now.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions from the audience?
Can we ask with some questions of like, how many
Yep.
of you are end users? Yes. What companies do you work for? Right. Here, no. And yourself? Boeing as well. Okay, so you brought some colleagues.
I guess, which initiative are you, I'd say, like most passionate about? What do you want to see as like the large outcomes out of them? Or the best possible outcome?
I think reference architecture, being able to provide prior art that has worked at scale, because the landscape itself and the projects themselves, while impressive all on their own, they do require some stitching and tape and sometimes dental floss to kind of bring together into something coherent that can be executed at scale. And you learn a lot about both the systems that you're depending on and how you're materially integrating them into your business systems, which are ultimately there to drive the business value for your companies, and not having to learn the same lessons that other people have, where you can take advantage of education and lessons that people have already learned, I think are supremely valuable and help drive velocity and mean time to adoption of CNCF projects, putting them together in known architectures that at least have some quantified statistics around working at some level of scale. I'll use Argo CD as a good example. We use it in Anger at scale, 3,000 applications over almost 1,000 clusters. We have to maintain those clusters, but also we use Argo CD as the GitOps backbone for almost everything, both infrastructure and application hosting. So providing that information and helping and sharing with others has really helped others get started. So from a reference architecture perspective, these are like the conversations I'm most passionate about, but also where I think it can also help people get a little lift under their flaps to use a plain reference a little bit faster.
So I think one thing that I'm very passionate about is just getting more end users engaged and making sure that end users get more value out of CNCF. I mean, CNCF and the project would, maintainers aside, you know, they're actually the ones building the project, but we wouldn't really be here without the end users using the project, right? So I think it's really important that we get the end users more engaged in what's going on both within CNCF and with the project, and making sure that there's better communication between the projects and the end users, and also make sure that there's more value and benefits realized for those end users out of CNCF. Because right now it's unfortunately very vendor focused. A lot of the value and benefit out of CNCF comes to the vendors, not the end users. And I would really like to see that kind of flipped around a bit.
Yep, go ahead.
We have a live question.
Yep.
Question. What has been the best feedback mechanism for the end users, for the tab to kind of seek out and say, hey, we'd like to collect this information, survey, some way of, you know, kind of connecting with the end users and, you know, trying to grasp not only what requests have come through, the requests are probably the noisy part, but what's gone unsaid, like what is truly valuable, how do you get that information, and what has been the most successful mechanism for doing that?
So the tab is pretty recent, but from experience, also interacting directly between the CNCF and the end users in the past, one of the ways to provide immediate value is participating in the surveys. The CNCF sends regular surveys. We get a certain amount of answers, but if we multiply that, probably the value is even greater. So we run a recent survey on the maturity levels of the projects in the CNCF from kind of an end user perspective. And this allows us to see how the maturity levels are being used by the end users, not necessarily the projects, and as well as seeing what can be changed to make them more relevant for the end users. So this is the kind of feedback that is really useful. The other one is participating in the tech radars. This will be improved once we have reference architectures as well, because this information will come inside. But the CNCF runs regular tech radars that will be coordinated by the tab, where we try to ask about different areas. So the recent one that was just published this week is about AI, inference, MLOps, and agentic AI, and to have an idea of what projects are being used, what is the perspective of the end users about the most common projects, are they ready to adopt, are they in the assessment phase, or do they recommend to the other end users to just hold on adopting a certain project? This kind of value, the more answers we get, the better it gets. So this is where when we talk about having a more direct channel and being more visible, I think this is where hopefully we'll get things better as well.
And as far as mechanisms, we do have a public Slack channel and a GitHub project, so all of our work is publicly visible in that GitHub channel to keep things. And we have, great point, thank you, Henrik. We have a public meeting once a month where people can attend and join in and ask questions or just see what's going on. So certainly encourage anyone to hop into those.
Yeah, the best way to find the information on how to contact us is our GitHub, actually. It's not this page necessarily, but the GitHub page of the tab has all the information. The Slack channel, the schedule for the public meetings as well. So that's the best way.
Yep.
I have a question about your survey. You mentioned that you gathered feedback around moving levels. How are you collaborating with the Technical Oversight Committee?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the TOC has representation in the tab. Both Chad and Katie are the representatives of the TOC in the tab, and this ensures that there's collaboration between the two governance bodies. So for example, in the case of the maturity levels, a survey that we just did, these results are then shared with the other bodies in the CNCF. In addition to that, we have an offsite for the tab and the TOC, where there's also a shared session between the two, where we go a bit more in detail on these interactions, as well as sort of monthly meetings. It hasn't happened every month, but that's the goal, or every couple of months, where the TOC and the tab meet together, everyone, and we describe to each other what are the priorities, any kind of feedback for additional interactions. So the bodies work very close together, so all the end user feedback we get through the tab, we ensure that it's passed to the TOC and any kind of recommendation as well. And the same is true the other way. So one of the things the TOC does is evaluate the project maturity levels. As part of that due diligence, there are adopter interviews being done to kind of assess the actual usage of the projects across different adopters and end users. So we started engaging a member of the tab to help find the adopters and the end users, and in many cases participate in those interviews as well. So it kind of goes both ways.
I wanted to mention the end user interviews, because previously that was done by the TOCs. We had a list of end users that the TOCs would reach out to understand not only the security of the project, the governance of the project, but also the end user side of the things, how you actually use it in production, how you interact with the project, if you provide feedback, for example, if you have a bug or if you want a new feature, how that is actually handled by the project. That is a very important part of the evaluation criteria for projects to move to incubation and graduation. And historically, this was done by the TOCs, and it's still done by the TOCs, but is done in collaboration with the TAB. Since it's a new function, this is where we're trying to do more collaboration, and it makes it's a natural choice as well, and it's a natural way as well. And I also want to mention this thing because the TOC function or the Technical Oversight Committee is very mature within the cloud native ecosystem. It has been around for 10 years, and it went for different evolution strategies. And I think having the TOC on the tab is a good way for us to see the ways that worked within the TOC and to actually also bring them on the tab. Of course, the purpose is going to be a bit different. The target audience is a bit different as well, and we need to cater for the end user requests or needs, which are very, very specific. And some people can talk openly about things, some people can talk privately about things, so we have to engage with the community in a different way. And maybe that's why we have that visibility kind of coefficient that is a bit lower than usually. But I think this is like important ways for us to provide end user feedback to the projects, which is, in my perspective, and I'm very biased because I've been working for end user companies for a long time, it's one of the most important and critical ways of increasing the maturity levels for projects. You provide feedback, the projects take accountability of that, they do something about it, and then they have more feature, more functionalities that caters to their audience as well. And we have another question.
Okay. We have time for one last question.
Do you have an example of how you've helped kind of bridge the gap between end user and project and how they have like coalesced on a mutual beneficial concept or feature or some other example of how that's worked?
I mean, the first one that comes in my mind was not necessarily bridging the feature gap, but understanding that the project is not actually mature enough to go to the next level. Because through the end user interviews, we realized that some of the governance inside the project is not actually applied. So we discovered some of those nuances. Unless we have some, yeah.
Yeah. So again, this is not necessarily triggered by the tab in these cases yet, but this is where we want to be. This happens very often when projects in the TOC, there are these health issues that can be open to assess the health of a certain project. And a big chunk of assessing the health of a project is to ask the end users. And there have been cases where this has been very quick because the end users come forward immediately saying, we are using this in production. And you see immediately the feedback from end users. So really what we need to help with is to have these feedback loops being more explicit so that the perception of the health of a project kind of becomes more quantified and visible and transparent. It's very, very common that in the discussions in the hallway here, you will ask questions to other end users about which product are you using? Do you think it's mature enough or is it healthy enough? These are worries that all the end users have. So I think this is really where the value will be. This does happen today. It's not like it will start now. But the idea is that the tab will bring a more clear way of doing this.
Do you want to? No, I was going to end. I also want to direct it back to you as well. Because we have, at least at this stage, one way of engaging with the end user community. However, if you have any feedback about any projects or about your experience of using projects, do engage in the usual ways you'd engage with projects for GitHub, open issues. We have a public repository. So this is the thing, like we are waiting from you to see what would you like from us as well and what do you need help with. And I think this is very, very important. Come to us with your problems. Do not always expect for us to tell the end users what to do or which directions to go, which I know it's the preferred way sometimes. As experts in the community, there's always guidance that is necessary. But at the same time, this guidance comes based on the request that comes from the end user community. So if you have any kind of feedback on how we can engage better with you, how we can increase that transparency, on if you have any even particular feedback for a project and you don't know how to get it to the project, please come forward as well. And if it's something private, you can also, like maybe the issue is not going to be the way for you, opening an issue on GitHub, but you can come to our public calls and requesting perhaps to have more of a private chat as well. So if that's a problem, please, there are ways for you to engage safely with us as well.
Any final comments?
Yeah. How was your experience being on the tab for 1 week?
Yeah, I guess maybe riffing off of the question, I think my experience has tended to, for the last decade or so, been centered around very large companies that aren't necessarily tech-forward companies or weren't tech-forward companies at their inception. And I think one of the ways that companies sometimes struggle to integrate well with CNCF projects is a lack of a formal like open source strategy or open source governance policy internally. And so one of the things that we're doing via CVS Health and our participation in CNCF is making sure that it's very straightforward for everyone inside CVS Health as end users of CNCF projects to directly contribute back to them. So we don't end up in kind of awkward situations where a bug fix might actually be contributed from us as the end user, but because it's a very complicated legal route to navigate all of the different restrictions about how software contributions happen outside the company, no one's sure how to do it, and no one's sure how to get started with it. And so like that's one of those things where it's like almost more of a process thing on the end user side, but it's also something that the tab can help in an engagement with different end users to help end users understand how to make that same kind of direction occur in their own companies or wherever the usage of CNCF projects is occurring. So I'm very excited to be here, and I'm super under-indexed on a lot of the process bits. But I think it's very much incumbent on end user companies to find ways to participate and drive forward projects as much as it is to actually just use the project. Like by using it, you become part of the community that's also building it. And finding ways to make that more straightforward is near and dear to my heart, and something I'm hoping I can participate in on the tab. So,
One last thing.
There we go.
Do you mind pulling up the LFX Insights page real quick? And just, we won't be able to go into all the details, but if you haven't seen it, this is another area where we collaborate with LFX, with the TOC, on how do we make this data richer, more useful for people. And the LFX Insight page is a great resource for project health, links to relevant information. Definitely check it out if you haven't, and that's all I had.